Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to the original Loretta Brown Show, radio to open the heart, heal the soul, and awaken the consciousness. Good morning, Mr. Benny Mathers.
Howdy doodly. Hello. Let me turn my camera on. There we go, everybody, so you can see me.
It's good to see you. I've been off and you've been off and we've been going back and forth. And
yeah, kind of like ships in the night a little bit. But I mean, we still got our bearings, so to speak. We're still navigating okay.
We're still navigating. This morning it's really foggy here in Seattle. I was thinking when you said the ships, I was like, you're on it, the foghorn.
My mom always said I was good at sound effects, so I'll do it.
You are really good at it. I'm just thinking, what if we all went around walking down the street making the...
Well, there's a lot to be said if we were doing that. They wouldn't think Seattle would be the coldest city to be in if we had those sound effects going on.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, I hope everybody out there, I hope life is good. I cannot believe we are... Wow, what 3/4 of the way through the year, 3/4 of the way through the month of September, and school is back.
Yeah.
And, all of a sudden, it seems like overnight it has become a little chilly here, and the leaves are changing color. And
I think specifically in the Pacific Northwest, and I know a lot of you could agree with me on this one. Like within a couple days, it felt like summer. Bye, close the door, bang, and then hello, fall, welcome. Like. It was that fast, literally. And you can smell it. You can smell the change.
Yeah. And, because I do a lot of sessions, I do a lot of appointments. And so, and some of them are on Zoom and some in person. But one of my clients yesterday was like, I have my first pumpkin spice latte. And I was like, oh my God, no.
You know what that deserves? A new sound effect. That's all for the pumpkin spice latte people. Pumpkin spice latte people, much. Unite.
Yeah, and then there's the people over there against it. I'm not even going to get into it, but
we can get them on board.
Yeah, we can get them on board.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Benny. I'm enjoying that.
Good.
Anyway. Yeah. So, I hope it's not too much jolly energy first thing in the morning. And thank you for listening, Joe. I have a great guest today. It's one of my favorite subjects. We're going to get into it. But before I get there, I am Loretta Brown. I'm the owner of Reiki Oasis, located right here in the greater Seattle area for 28 years. Anyway, I've got some great things coming up the day after tomorrow, Saturday, September 23rd, is my monthly class, Temple of the Divine Feminine. You can join that class in person or via Zoom. So we've got a little bit of both going on. Also, you can sign up for everything at schedule.reikioasis.com. Be aware of the fact that I've been having a little challenges with my website, but you can go to reikioasis.com. It will take you straight to the scheduler. And always just, connect with me if you have questions. I do have a Reiki 2 class coming up Saturday, October 14th for those people that have taken Reiki 1. And this is my last call for Egypt. I am taking a group of sacred travelers to Egypt November 1st through the 14th. I think we've got about 12 people going. I do have room for one
just 12?
Or 2 more.
Just 12? Mm-hmm. We need to send it 12. Out.
I know.
We need more. We need more people.
Well, this is your top shelf trip, right?
Of course
is a very, very special trip. Yeah, we have our own private yacht, right? Yes, we do. And we're going to go to all the temples. We're going to do sacred work. It's going to be really, really great. So it is the last call. If you want to go, send an email to reikioasis@gmail.com. Let me know right away, and we'll be able to.
Did you say last call? That's what I thought you said. Okay, great. Good to know. All right. There we go.
Not sure I can continue the show.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Oh my gosh. It is exactly what I needed. It's actually making me cry. I'm laughing so hard. Thank you. I love that. There's this a funny little, I don't know if it's on TikTok or Instagram, and it shows these guys playing band instruments, and people are jogging through the park, and they come chasing them playing, theme music from, Rocky or something. They're playing their instruments and chasing them down. And I went, it would be really funny if you had theme music everywhere you went, or regular sounds. Yeah.
And on command too. That'd be great.
On command. Yeah. Lots of times people have that in their heads. Like, I've walked into a room and my theme song is playing.
Someday right? That'll happen. I know. Someday that'll happen.
Yeah. It will happen. Anyway, let's check in with astrology and then get our very patient guest onto the show. So we did begin the month of September with 7 planets retrograde, blah. Then Venus went direct, and then Jupiter went retrograde, blah. So that was still 7 planets retrograde, right? But things are starting to loosen up. On September 14th, we had a new moon in Virgo, and Mercury moved direct. So between September 15 through September 30, Venus is square Uranus. As Venus is still in its post-retrograde shadow, it's now aligning with Uranus. Your attention may turn to issues that were brewing for you in May to July, especially around a significant relationship in your life. We've had this relationship theme going on. Alternatively, your attention may have turned to issues that were brewing at this time regarding money or your feelings of self-worth. Venus and Uranus combined can create a volatile energy that can challenge what we thought to be true. Secrets may be revealed, or a situation may prove to be rockier than anticipated, and you might feel the desire to do something radical. And while, I'm always going to give people permission to, lead with their heart, be a little bit careful about the emotional heart, because if you're doing things from a point of reaction, or you're upset, I'm mad and I'm just going to walk away, count to 10 before you do that, because this is kind of a volatile combination of planets. Venus square Uranus can bring sudden changes. So that could be for the good or for the bad. It's not always a bad thing. On September 23rd, which is shortly, like in a couple of days, the autumn equinox arrives along with Libra season. The equinox helps to shift the wheel and push us into a new season. We're being bathed with waves of light codes, connecting us with the divine feminine and motivating transformation and change on a personal and a planetary level. The equinox represents a time when the veil between dimensions is thin and the energy grid of the planet moves into higher harmony, especially with that Libra balancer. The healing powers of Mother Nature can be felt with more ease at this time. So spend some time in nature, right? Get outside. The September equinox coincides with the sun's movement into the sign of Libra, as I said, and Libra is represented by the scales. And so this is a season to balance in our lives. Libra is also associated with things like beauty. So it is a time when we may feel drawn to beautify our lives in some way. Libra asks us to hold the balance and harmony within ourselves first, in order to hold the energies for the earth. And for Gen X people, if you were born between the years of 1971 to 1984, you have Pluto in Libra, and Pluto in Libra is having a south node transiting the Pluto for the next 18 months till the end of 2024. What does that mean? Pluto is our very deep traumas, our complexes, and our fears. The South Node is a liberating moksha influence. So this and next year, this year and next year, Generation X is releasing not just current, but past life traumas. So keep breathing. The result is ultimately very freeing, but it can bring unprocessed and irrational pain and fear to the surface. And the only reason that those things happen is so that you can work through it and churn it out. So like, I don't know, stirring a pond and bringing the stuff up from the bottom of the pond to the top so that you can clean it off. But be aware that this year and next, you might have deep emotional and extreme reactions to situations that seem a little bit maybe beyond what they should be. A lot of inner work, spiritual, psychological work, and even the work that my guest is going to talk about today can be done. And really, it is the time to do it. So old topics of trauma, which Pluto represents, will be reawakened depending on what house Pluto is in for you. And the South Node wants to weaken and empty its power over us. So just observe, do some work, do some deep things, be gentle with yourself and the people around you, because these influences are affecting all of us, and they are bringing, as I said, personal and planetary changes. So, have you found yourself getting lost in endless cycles of negative thinking? How are you doing out there, my listeners? If so, you're not alone. In the recent years, negativity seems to have invaded every aspect of our lives. My guest today, Judy Wilkins-Smith, is excited to offer her expert advice on how to find, identify, and purpose in positivity instead of anchoring ourselves in our traumas. Judy Wilkins-Smith is a highly regarded family patterns, system work, and constellations expert, transformational coach, motivational speaker, and author who is passionate about individual growth, visionary leadership, and positive accelerated global change. She's the founder of Systems Dynamics for individuals and organizations. She has at least 18 years of expertise assisting high-performance individuals, Fortune 500 executives, and legacy families, ending limiting cycles and creating lasting breakthroughs and transitions. She's a regular guest on TV news and entertainment shows, and she is the author of a fabulous book called Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns. Wow, Judy, welcome to the show.
It's so nice to be with you, and I'm glad to say I have not had my first pumpkin spice latte because it's so warm in Texas, and you can keep the cool.
You can get an iced version. I'm sure that wouldn't be that bad.
I'm good.
Okay, all right. There's always hope.
Thank you. Thanks, Judy, for entering into our silliness. You know, up here in Seattle, we fight about the craziest things. Coffee.
I've heard there is a robust discussion around coffee in Seattle.
There is a robust discussion. I love how you put that. That was just great. So you have actually been on my show before, Judy. I'm just letting people know they can go back. Sometime last year, and we talked about your book. But I do want to have you introduce yourself again to the listening audience. And how did you get into this amazing, interesting work that you do?
Oh, in an amazing, interesting way. Well, so I moved up to the US. My background was medical. My father was killed in a hospital and failed in all of the areas that I'd specialized in. And it was like that was the door that closed. So then it was write books or go crazy. And I figured writing books was probably a better alternative, and started doing some of this, and then went I went after a particular piece of information that led me to this work. And the guy said, come study the work and I'll help you with a book. So I went and studied the work and got zero help with a book, just saying. But anyway, that started me with all of this work. And then people said to me, well, if you could show individuals how to overcome limiting patterns or flip them into really good patterns, can you do that for executives? Well, as it happens, executives are people too. So yes, you can. And then they said, well, can you do it for companies? And yes, companies have DNA too, because companies have individuals. So that's how I got into it. And then, sort of full circle moment, somebody said to me, well, of course you could do this. And I said, why? And they said, because it started in South Africa, which I'd not been aware of at the time. And they said, yeah, it started with a Zulu tribe. Well, when I left South Africa and I left the teaching hospital, the gentleman who gave my farewell speech was a Zulu gentleman. And he said, you may be leaving us, but you'll find a way to represent us in the world. And I went, yeah. And now I do it every day.
Oh, that is fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
So the Zulus did this work.
What happened was, it's that they naturally do it. They know that if there is if there's trouble with me, I need to look at my ancestors and see what's happening. Now, of course, that's been fleshed out, and we have the world of epigenetics, and we have studies for epigenetics, like the Great Dutch Hunger Winter or the 9/11 studies. And so we now know that you inherit your physical DNA, yes, but you very definitely and distinctly inherit your emotional DNA. And there's a reason for that. If it's a limiting pattern, it's asking you to be the change agent. If it's a really good pattern, it's asking you to amplify it. So it's kind of a win-win-win situation.
Wow. I actually got goosebumps when you said that. And I was thinking to myself, so these patterns that emerge, if I could put it that way, are also tied in with your purpose or your destiny.
Completely. So, for example, you have someone who comes in and says, you know, in my family, everybody is miserable. They're all depressed. We've always been depressed. I've been depressed for as long as I can remember. I'm curious, who was first depressed? Well, great-grandmother was depressed. When she got married, she said, it's all over for me. I can't have a career. I can't have a whatever. And all the women became depressed. And then the client often says to me, so I don't know what my purpose is. And I'm like, it's sitting right there. For all of the depressed women, you can be the change agent and be the joy. And your purpose is joy. And so you'll see, suddenly they get that, oh, okay, that's echoed down to me, because if I don't do something, my daughter has to, or my granddaughter has to. But if I do, I'm now changing the emotional DNA in the system. And not only do you change it going forward, but suddenly my depressed mother can look very much like my courageous mother or my courageous great-grandmother. And so we're giving history a slightly different turn as well. So it echoes backwards and forwards.
Wow. That is such a powerful statement. I'm kind of sitting here, like I say, I'm familiar with your work, but I'm a little bit stunned when I recognize, and you use the word change agent, or, okay, so let's see, how do I ask this question? So in this moment, right, let's say that I've got some sort of, I don't know, a lot of people have health issues or money issues.
Sure. Let's go money. Money's a
okay,
good
let's go. Yeah, let's go money. Okay.
So somebody comes to me and says to me, you know what, I really, really want to do well with money, but money. Well, here's the deal. Since we were born, we've all been taught that money is evil, money is wrong, money is bad, money is cruel, money is all of those. And poor old money sits in the corner going, really? That's the way you're going to see me? Well, this client says, I'd really like to do well with money, but my father says, be careful of money. If you get focused on money, you lose everything else. So I said to him, okay, where did dad get that from? Tell me about grandfather. Well, grandfather was very focused on his career, did not ever want to talk about money at all, because money is bad and all it does is make you miserable. And that's a big statement. So I said, okay, what about great-grandfather? Oh, well, he had a whole lot of money and then he gambled all of it away and he ruined the family, and there it sits. And we don't talk about him, which wraps it up very nicely, because in systemic work, who or what you exclude is going to echo down through the generations until you see them and give them their place.
Oh.
So here sits the client going, it's bad stuff in the family. No, your purpose is to look at money kindly, and to recognize that money is not a commodity, it's a relationship. And the way you show up for it is the way it will show up for you. And then also to say, it's not money or love, it's not money or success, it's money and. Money is an and, not an or. And by the way, it really likes to be liked, just like any of us do. It likes to be liked. It will play with you if you play with it. And so the client goes, so I'm not going to get killed if I look at money. No, but you may just change a whole lot of things in your family when you look at money, and you're a wise steward and you give it its place. And now I have a client who is very wealthy and does a lot of very kind things, because he said, and he recognized, you could see money as a commodity, or you could see it as spiritual flow. And when he could see it that way, and he could look at his great-grandfather and say, I have your DNA of success, and the failure I'm going to park with you, if you don't mind, he could move.
So why do you think that, well, I probably can answer this, but I'm going to ask you the question anyway. Why do you think that we get so attached to these old stories or these traumas? And what are we getting from that, right? Because you're explaining this very clearly, how we actually can change it.
Right. But why do we get attached? Because it allows us to belong in the family system, or it allows us to belong in the organizational system. If everybody hates money and I suddenly love money, it's not going to go so well for me. But if I can love money and acknowledge that it also has a place where people struggle and keep going, and everybody sees that I haven't been smote on the back of the head with a piece of 2x4 because I love it, more people start to migrate in that direction. And they go, oh, it's a different way to belong now.
Yeah, I'm also thinking how people are attached to their stories about things.
Very much, because again, it allows me to belong. And don't forget, we grew up very much with a mindset of, we're poor, we're stupid, we're dumb, we were born into sin, we live in sin, and try dying nicely in sin so that you can get seat L34 at the top when you go there. No, not true. This is what we grew up with. So it's become the dominant pattern. It's when we start bringing the other pattern in that things become very interesting, because now you're no longer living ancient history. You're fully present, and your inevitable future just changed.
Yeah, I was thinking back to, the way I was raised, and we didn't have a lot of money. I know my listeners will be able to relate. And there was a certain attitude, don't put on airs, right? Oh. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Don't be above your station or something.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Heaven forbid you should rise above your station, because now you don't belong in the family. We don't do that this way, please. This is where your bandwidth is in the family, and this is where you stay.
Yeah.
Until you suddenly realize that that's a myth.
Yes. Yeah. Even to the extent, and God bless my mother, but I remember when I got to where I hired someone to clean my house because I was too busy. And she said, now, Loretta, we don't do those things. we clean our own house.
Right? Yes. Yeah. Notice in our family, we don't, until somebody like Loretta says, well, I do. So
I do.
We will.
Yeah. No pain, no gain.
Oh, one of my just not favorites. So not favorite. What about, I hear this all the time, no pain, no gain, and we must suffer to transform. Mm-hmm. Really? Have you ever sat and watched the most incredible sunset, or picked up a kitten and gone, you know what, I'll never be the same again, or held your child for the first time and gone, I'll never be the same again? You do not have to suffer your way into transformation. You can bliss it, only we're not taught that.
So we're talking multi-generational emotional DNA.
Yep.
How does that, I mean, how does that actually get passed on? I do understand that we're talking about how to shift it. And this is a whole bunch, but I know you can unravel it. When by the time this thing gets passed down to me through several generations, let's just say, the money issue, right?
Sure.
Is it watered down when it gets to me? Is it worse when it gets to me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anytime you exclude something or someone, it creates a pattern that expands and repeats because it keeps trying to get your attention. So the way that it's created in the first place is you have an event, and you'll know this in your life. You have an event, and the minute you have an event, you start the process of thoughts, feelings, actions. So now you're creating this whole neural pathway, and you're endorsing it because you're going, see, I told you were stupid. You should never have done that. I knew, and your body is feeling it. And the minute your brain tells your body a story that the body buys, that's your new truth. You've just cast a spell on yourself, and we'll do it all day long. Not only that, you then reinforce it. And because you want everybody to belong, now you're sharing this lovely stuff that you created. Oh, that's right. Especially if it's negative. Yeah, now we can all suffer together. Yes, we found a new way to belong together in the negativity. And so it's an event creates thoughts, feelings, actions, which then become patterns. Those become mindsets. The mindsets become the truth, only they're not the truth. They're your truth. And you can change them anytime you choose to. But it's got to be the head, the heart, and the gut aligned. And people say, but how do you do that? That's hard. No, it's not. You do it every day. You say, oh, I'm stupid. Your gut squinches and your heart closes, and you've just aligned negatively. So you know exactly how to do it. All you've got to do is the inverse, where your heart opens, because then your stomach becomes the inner compass it was meant to be, and your creative brain goes, let's go. Catch her while she's awake. Quickly, let's create.
I'm thinking when you're talking about, personal, right? Like, so many of us right now probably have this emotional DNA, multi-generational, probably really activated because perhaps we are the ones here to be the change agents or to carry forward. But I'm also thinking about the last few years and how it has really collectively, planetarily, really built things up. Like when the lockdowns, began a few years ago, all of my clients that had phobias or fears, I mean, like everything has been activated and pulled to the front. And I've kind of watched the long-term range of that over the last few years. And I don't know if you can talk to that or not, but it occurs to me that we're on the edge of really being change agents in a big way.
We're on the edge if we choose.
Okay.
Yeah, of being change agents in either a negative way or a positive way. If we go positive, we will discover that we are a lot more limitless than we supposed we were. We'll finally own up to the truth that we are the ones who are casting self-spells and spells around us. And people always say to me, there's no such thing as spells. Oh yeah, you wait until somebody says, and they say, words are not that important. Walk into a doctor's office and the doctor says, you're dying. 2 words. And tell me what happens to you. Because your head goes yes, and your heart goes yes, and everything goes whoo. And you know that you've just aligned in a way you did not want to. Now walk into the doctor's office and the doctor says, you're in remission. 3 words. And suddenly you go, I'm living. Who told you both of those? You did. We are incredibly powerful with our words and minds. And so, yes, we're at the cutting edge of if we choose, and we choose our higher selves, and we start choosing. I saw a beautiful t-shirt the other day that said, in a world where you can be anything you want, be kind. If we start doing some of that, all of this anger and the division and the polarity is not going to be necessary. We will actually recognize that there is room for everybody's dream, and we'll start actualizing that, and we will not have the same planet. If we go the other way, it's not going to be pleasant.
Very well said. So we're going to take a little station break. This is Loretta Brown. I love my guest today, Judy Wilkins-Smith, and her beautiful book, Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint, a powerful guide to transformation through disentangling multi-generational patterns. Yeah. You should just go and get it right now and check out Judy Wilkins-Smith. But we're going to take a little break, a station break. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
All right, ladies, all clear and still live on the old YouTuber.
Judy, you're great.
Oh, thank you. And you're great. It's fun.
I can tell that you are so adept at this. Like, you really know your stuff. How long have you been doing this? 20 years? 30?
Not this. This I've been doing probably for about, I would say 14, 15, maybe. But really more and more into what I'm doing now in the last while, because for a lot of people who do constellations or family constellations, they get to here's the pattern, that's all, we're done. And for me, I discovered that no, we're beginning. This is transformational work. And if we do it properly, it creates those aha shifts in minutes.
Wow.
So yeah.
I'm fascinated how you do this with corporations or with, I'm fascinated by that. So do you go and talk to large groups of people when you're doing that?
Sometimes I do a lot of work with the C-suite executives. So I coach a lot of them. And then what they'll do is like the CFO I had, he said, I am stuck. I've been battling with this thing for 2 years. They tell me you could do something. And if you watch me at a live event, I've got one in November at Disney World, Money DNA. But anyway, then what I do is
that when I'm in Egypt? It probably is, isn't it?
November 5 through 8.
Oh yeah, I'll be in the Dendera Temple in Egypt. I'll send you energy.
Yes, please. We'll take it.
Thank you.
So what I do is I use live representatives, so you're literally seeing that pattern in front of you. So I was doing this with a guy, but I used pieces of paper. He said, we're not doing that woo-woo stuff. Well, we got to the end of that, and he said to me, you did that woo-woo stuff, didn't you? Because he suddenly said to me, that's it. You just did that woo. I said, yeah, I kind of did.
You guys ready to come back?
But it's really not woo-woo.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right.
Yep.
We're ready.
And bye.
Welcome back to the original Loretta Brown Show with my guest today, Judy Wilkins-Smith. I want to remind you that these shows are archived. You can download them for free, listen to them over and over, take notes, all that kind of good stuff. They're archived at KKNW 1150 AM, archives for the original Loretta Brown Show. And of course, we're on iTunes, Podcast One, Megaphone, Twitter, YouTube. I know I've left something out.
Instagram.
Yeah. We're everywhere. Yeah, we are. We're easy to find.
We're everywhere.
I had a guest one time, and she interrupted and she says, Loretta is everywhere. So yeah, that's kind of how it is. We are having such a great discussion. Judy's book, Decoding Your Emotional Blueprint. And this idea of emotional DNA being passed through the multi-generational, I'm fascinated by this work. I'd like you to talk a little bit, because during the break, we were talking about constellations. So can you talk about what is a constellation? What does that have to do with family systems and so forth?
Okay, so systemic work and constellations go together. So systemic work is the study of you within the entire system. How you've been affected by what and what your purpose is. Constellations is the 3D breakthrough approach that we use, where we use parts of the issue that you bring. What are all the parts of that issue? We ask you to set them up for us in 3D using live representatives, because now when you set them up, you can actually see what's happening. So perhaps we have the money issue and we've got mom, dad, sibling, you, grandfather. And I say, okay, give me a picture of what that's like. Well, and money. So we put money in the middle, and all of a sudden you'll see them placing the representatives. Dad's right close to it. Mom's standing over there. You've got your back to it. And I start to ask questions like, okay, so you've got your back to money. Yep. Don't want to look. what's that about? And by asking those questions, you're not only seeing it, you're hearing it, you're touching it, you're walking in it. And so your brain starts to rewire in the moment. So does your body, which is what we do when we have those aha moments. And so when people come to a live event, they have lots of aha moments. In fact, if I'm working with you, the chances are all the other attendees are going to say, was that really about me? Because it's going to hit them at their level too. And so because that's happening, you're having an embodied experience, and it's very quick, and the download is very quick, and you have that rewiring of the head, heart, gut.
So I'm going to feed this back for people listening. So at a live event, you actually bring people up to represent mom or dad or Aunt Mildred
Absolutely.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Yes.
And these people are not those people, and they don't know those people.
They don't, but here's the thing, and here's what we've never been taught.
Right.
And it's an amazing thing. So two things. We're making the invisible visible.
Yes.
And the unconscious becomes conscious. Yes. But there's another one, and people go, this is not possible, until they represent, and they suddenly take on the feelings or the thoughts of the one they're representing, and they go, how? It's simple. It's simple. If you've watched AGT, if you've watched The Voice, if you've watched any of those, you know the times where you see somebody do something incredible and you watch them sink into their space and you get goosebumps?
Yes.
You're sensing into their system. We do that every single day, but we've not been taught that that's what we're doing. So now you're doing it, and we're pointing out to you that you're doing it, and people go, whoa, how? That's how. It's the mirror neurons that are firing, and we're very, very well able to use them.
Yeah, I am, like I said, I am fascinated with this work. You know, I mean, we could go to the quantum level. We could just talk about the fact that if I said the family of man is a constellation, right? You also said something earlier in the show, and I really want to bring this back out. So if there is something that is excluded, right? That
Yes.
thing you don't want to look at, like I won't look at the money.
We won't look at the money, or we won't talk about.
So that becomes louder, if I could say, or
louder and louder. So you have I'm trying to think of a really good one. So you have a girl who says, you know what, I'm trapped. I can't get ahead with life. I'm never going to get married, because then it's going to be even worse. And I go, what's the trapped? Grandmother, like we said, gets married, says it's all over for me, I'm trapped. And I'm trapped becomes a core sentence that keeps floating down to you. And now all of a sudden you meet this gorgeous guy and you love him, and you go, trouble ahead in paradise, because I know what that means, go away. And then you come to me and you say, I don't know why I can't have relationships. That's why you can't have relationships. So it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, because it's going, hey, who are we not talking about? We're not talking about grandmother and the fact that she felt trapped. We don't talk about that stuff. Or we exclude something in the family. You know what? There was a child who died or a child who drowned. We don't talk about that. And suddenly we have people popping up in the system who are half dead. They don't live a full life because they're unconsciously loyal to the one who drowned that nobody will speak about.
Unconsciously loyal. That is powerful right there. So we remain loyal to these, I'm going to say, unhealthy, multi-generational emotional things, right?
And healthy ones. And healthy ones.
That's a good point. Yeah.
In our family, we are all doctors. In our family, we are all wealthy. In our family, there are very, very good, strong ones. The magic is in amplifying the strong ones and in flipping or reframing the limiting ones. A limiting one is only limiting because it's outlived its use, its original use. What was first a solution has become a problem.
So for the curious listeners, such as myself, I'm right in there. When we begin, well, maybe I should say, how do we recognize these patterns? And maybe they're obvious. And then once we've recognized, what are the steps? How do we get out of this position in the
Okay.
constellation? Yeah.
So the first way to recognize that there are a number of places you can go and look where you're dogmatic, annoyed, negative, limited, fighting, absolutely stubborn, probably the same as dogmatic. If you have those areas or something that really makes you so sad and you wish it were different, you're actually sitting with problem and solution in your hands. So when you've got something that really you're stuck with or it's tweaking you, you go and you write down all your thoughts about it without censoring them, because the words that you choose will be unique to your system. What are my thoughts? What are my feelings? What are my actions? And when you've written all of those down, then you go, okay, but I really wish. Good. Write down your thoughts, feelings, and actions around the deep, deep desire. Because the one is the pattern trying to stop, and the other one is the pattern trying to start. But here's the important piece. Your piece trying to start, in other words, what you wish, what you want, has to be stronger and more exciting than what's got you stuck at the moment. Because if it's not big enough and it's not more exciting, you're just going to sit. But if you make it so enticing that you can't resist yourself, it'll pull you past all of the old excuses and into your purpose.
My goodness. That can be used for all kinds of things, like any kind of resistance or stubbornness or inability to quote unquote succeed. Or I was thinking about even weight loss. Everybody in my family is heavy, these sorts of comments. Yeah. So go ahead.
Go ahead. That you have stuck, and then you've got to have enticing. First, you've got to acknowledge, yes, I'm stuck. Because if you don't acknowledge it, you can't move. So this is where I am. I'm scared, I'm frightened, I'm angry, I'm sad. Boom. And then write all of those down. Then you've got to look and say, that's what I really want. This is what I really want. You know what? I'm invested in it. I'm committed to it. But it can't be a drag. It's got to be an adventure. If it's a drag, you won't do it. If it's an adventure, absolutely you will do it. So for me, when I moved here, we came over with nothing when we moved here, nothing, because you weren't allowed to take your money out. And I'd been to Disney, and Disney, for anybody who knows me, they know that Disney is my number one favorite thing in the world. And I looked at all of these people coming out of these resorts, and I thought, I actually said to my kids one day, we're going to go to the Swan and Dolphin, but I want timeshare at the beach club. And so what I did was I took an envelope and I marked it beach club. And every time something unexpected or extra came in, it went in there. I never looked at how much it was, just went in there. So, and people would laugh at me. They would say, it's expensive. And I would say, I want it. I really want it. Why do you want it? I want to be able to bring my family over. I want us to stand in the magic and say we did it. And I want us to have the best time. Fast forward about 5-6 years, my brother's coming over and I said, I will help pay for the accommodation. And I went to my envelope, and normally you don't borrow from your envelope, but I went to have a look, and there was enough money for a deposit on the timeshare. So I bought the timeshare. And I will tell you, I walked into when I walked out of there with my family, I knew something had shifted.
Yeah.
I'd made something, I'd co-created a dream come true. And if you've done it once, you do not want to go backwards. You will do it again and again. But I was very committed to it. Didn't matter the ups and downs, in it went.
I love that. In this idea of the constellation and the systems. So I'm going to backtrack, and then you're going to do what you do with it, right? Because you're the expert.
I'm going to do what I do.
Yeah, you're going to do what you do. So let's say that I have discovered that I am coming from this thing with money. And then I recognize the whatever it is that has been excluded or I've not looked at, right? So I'm going to begin to include that. And in your illustration, and maybe I'm too liberal here in what I'm doing with my example, you're taking this idea, I want that timeshare, Disney, it's this. And so I'm shifting where I am at. And by doing that, here's my question. You're probably already there. So I have not excluded this issue. I have positioned it somewhere else.
You've given it its place.
I've given it its place. That's it.
Everything belongs. And when you've given it its place,
yes.
also look at it and go, what have I learned from you? Thank you for getting me this far. Because of you, I have generations before me who've made it. I've got to do it differently. I'm going to use you as wisdom. Yes. But now I have to do it differently. And then there's no inner conflict with that at all. You've given it its place, it belongs, and now you can move to what you want. And by the way, pro tip, money loves having a place to go. If it doesn't know where to go, it goes, oh, well, out the door, into the cigarettes, there's the magazines. But when you give it a definite place to go to, oh, it likes that.
Yes. Yeah, give it a, don't let, don't let it go out the door.
No,
That's
and it's
very well said. Yeah.
Sorry, it's never love or money. It is love and money. Always an and. Money is an and.
So we can take these emotional DNA. I mean, in your example, you are taking this wish, right? And you are expanding it, you're growing it, you are placing it.
You're actually, yes, you're giving it a place too now. But what people don't always understand is, and that's why you'll hear the teachers say, you got to feel it, you got to visualize it. Why? Because what they don't teach you is, we know that we create memories, but nobody teaches us that you also create future memories. And future memories are what pull you towards what you want. So the minute you start having that feeling of, oh, I've got the purse, or I've got the timeshare, or I'm healthy, or I have a beautiful relationship, and you kind of can feel it in your body, you're creating the future memory, and it tells you where to go.
Yeah. I love this. I like, where do I go with my questions? This can be done individually. You have, I think, on your website or maybe on your YouTube channel, you actually have meditation. You have help for people.
I do.
Mm-hmm. So what is available for them? Like, I know there are people listening that are fascinated as I am, and they're like, where do I start? What do I do?
Okay, so first of all, the book is super helpful. I wrote it so that everybody could start literally transforming their lives. That is the purpose of the book, for you to transform your life from what you think you've gotten to what you can have. So there are the books. Then there are the two meditations, the meditation of the mother and the meditation of the father. And each one gives you the opportunity to go all the way back and then walk all the way forward, changing the pattern and into your own future. Yeah. And then they can also hear it on audio. And I'm doing live events. And this year, well, the remaining one this year is the Money DNA one at Disney World. And when people do the Money DNA event, they walk out and they usually will come back and say, everything shifted. I have a lot of now 7-figure people because they shifted their money DNA.
I love that. During the break, I was asking, you actually work with corporations.
I do.
And groups of people. And can you talk a little bit about that? Like, the emotional DNA of a company?
Oh, absolutely. If you look at a company, what you want to understand is its big why, Simon Sinek's big why, because the why will tell you what the DNA is of the company. And if you go against that, you'll find a new CEO comes in and says, I'm changing everything. Worst thing they could do. If they don't understand the company and they don't acknowledge its current DNA, and they then go herring off, the current DNA won't support it. It won't. So I walk in and we have a look at, and in mergers and acquisitions, it's the same. What are you acquiring? What DNA are you acquiring? So what is the leading value in this company? And do you have a place for money? Because if you're one of those companies that's, it's not about the money, then we have a problem. Money is a medium of flow. It's how we transact. It's a medium of exchange for value or exchange for services. So if you're not about money, you're also telling me you're not about value and you're not about flow. Oops. So we worked to have a look at that. I had one where I walked in and it was fascinating. The CEO was the person I was working with, and I walked into the boardroom and he sat down in 4 different chairs before he took his own. And I looked at him and I said, how many CEOs before you? And he said, oh, 4. So he literally took his own place without recognizing it. So I said to him, okay, what's the problem? He said, you know what? The heart's gone. We don't have it. And I said, who was the heart? And he looked at me and he went, oh, it was so-and-so. He got dismissed unfairly. And it was that simple. It was, who is the heart? What is the company about? In terms of something like Apple, if you look at Apple, the iPhone is actually out of order. The iPhone and the iPad came along. The iPad was actually first. And Steve Jobs said no, and he put the iPhone there. But the iPhone is not the original one. It's the iPad. I also had a company that you will all know. It's one of the top ones in the world that you buy things from every day. And I walked into their corporate offices and I said to them, gosh, I looked at the portraits and the portraits were all over the place. And I said, tell me your story. And I said, first of all, they said, in here, nobody ever feels like they quite belong. So I said, okay, tell me your history. And what they told me was, once upon a time, there was a young guy and he was afflicted by a physical ailment. And his mother said, you're not going to just sit around and do nothing. And she started something and he took it on. And so his picture is there and everybody's picture is there. Whose picture is not there? Mom's picture is not there. He started it. Mom started it. When we put the picture in, suddenly everybody could find their place. So we are very literal creatures, and systems are very literal. They don't like exclusions.
I love you explaining that, because to me that also applies individually to each of us. And that idea that perhaps in my constellation or yours or a listener's constellation, we don't want mom in there. We don't want, Aunt Mabel in there, or we don't want that event in there. And I also want to bring this out. It's a question. So we can, through this multi-generational emotional DNA, we can be affected by events such as famines or floods or catastrophic events that we might not even know, right? Like our ancestors, right?
No. And so you're touching on what my newest work that's coming out in the next while, which is the work that I do is genealogy 3.0. So genealogy 1.0 is, who am I? At least, where do I belong in the system? Genealogy 2.0 is, what events affected my system? Genealogy 3.0, which is this work, is, how is it affecting me and what is my purpose now? Because I can make a quantum leap.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love it. So we're getting near the end of the show. What would you, take a minute or so, what would you like to really share with people? What do you want to say to them? What will really help them today?
Couple of things. Transformation isn't for the chosen few. It's for those who choose it. So that's the first one. You're a remarkable life if you're willing to see it. And it doesn't matter where you are now. Where you are now is no measure of who you will become when you choose it. And then I think the final thing is, if you're happy or if you're sad, if you're stuck or if you're elevated, remember, it's a choice.
So we are not victims.
Nope.
No. And we can use those impulses. We can use that. Yeah, I don't even know what the right thing is. But whatever it is.
Inner callings. Yeah, those callings.
Inner callings, yeah.
Or the ones that say, I really want to go and be a great whatever it is. And everybody goes, don't be stupid. Nobody does that. Well, if we all listened to that, we wouldn't have Disney. We wouldn't have Apple. We wouldn't have Starbucks. We wouldn't have. So my big thing would be to say to people, want a lot and make it happen.
Yeah, I love it. Where can people find you? Where can they find your book?
They can find my book at any bookstore. They can find it on Amazon. They can find it through Sounds True. You name it, it's there. They can find it on Audible. And they can find me on Instagram, Spotify, Facebook, YouTube, wherever they need to. And they can find me at Disney World in November, and they should come play.
They should. Judy Wilkins-Smith, what a delight to have you on the show. Thank you for your marvelous work on this planet. And to everybody out there, have a great, great week. Enjoy the autumn equinox. And Benny, you are the best. Yeah. Foghorn.
Thank you, Loretta. Thank you, Benny.